And why I'm here today is because of my connection with Akademi, and I don't know if you remember this, Mira, but about 13 years ago, precisely I think, it was in this very hall I turned up, and it was when I decided to make dance as a career. I came in and I saw all these people, and I was actually absolutely petrified. I wonder if you were there as well. I was petrified of you as well. And I just turned up, and then I just didn't know how to talk to people. I remember Mira just saying, calm down, and she introduced me to this dance called Rocky, and then sent me off with her. He took me outside, gave me a drink, and said, calm down. And she introduced me to people, and then from that day on, I felt comfortable talking to people. Sorry, my screen is switched off. Bring that back up. So that's my connection to Akademi. And then building on from that, Akademi commissioned my first exploratory piece of work called Impermanence in 2004, and then it went to be performed as part of the first thereabouts at South Bank Centre in 2005, and it's been a constant conversation through Akademi. I've been involved in a number of projects since then. I'm just going to delve into a little bit about my personal background and my journey and what I've been doing over the last 13 years. And before that, I'll tell you about how I got into dance and what brought me to dance. So I started training in Bharatanatyam, which is obviously South Asian dance form, in Pushkala Gopalan in East London. I did my Arangate in 1994. At that point, I knew I wanted to take dance as a career, but as a first-generation Asian, my parents insisted that I get a proper job, and so I was sent to university. I needed to study, but I was useless. Jumped around from subject to subject, and eventually left not graduating, got shipped off to India to get married, didn't get married, came back, got a marketing job. Sounds fancy, but it was in a small independent firm. But while I was in that job, I kept writing dance sequences down and choreographing little patterns on my desk. I got sacked from my job, and it's at that point I realised I wanted to do dance as a career. That's what I needed to do. At that point, all I had was my classical Indian dance training. That's all I had, and with that, I had very limited opportunities. I could either be involved in the community performances my dance teachers were putting on, or I could go into teaching. These were the options available to me. At the time, I was going to professional classes with Maven Koo, and met loads of friends who were working there as well. And one of my friends there was going to audition for Shobana Jason Dance Company, and she said, "You should come and join as well." I said, "Oh, I don't know." And then she said, "No, I'll speak to her," and Shobana agreed to it. I went along, and sort of end of 2002, I got a call from Shobana asking if I would join the company in 2003. And that kind of opened up a doorway. Hello. So through Shobana's company, who I stayed with for 4.5 years, I got training in Graham, Cunningham, ballet and release. Whilst I was with the company, I started to work with a number of different other companies, including WAC Company, which was a storytelling theatre, and that was using, I suppose, some of the narrative aspects of Bharatanatyam, and also worked with Nina on the place prize winning piece Quick, and also went to Spain to do another piece with Equilibrium. And then following on from that, I had a number of different other contemporary dance companies, and I left the company, Shobana's company, simply because I found it unemotional for me as a dancer at that point after 4.5 years. I felt there was the same emotional connection I had to Bharatanatyam I didn't have with the contemporary dance aesthetic. And so I decided to take that leap of faith and leave the company. It was a stroke of luck. At that time, Complicité were workshopping for South Asian dancers, and I got invited, and I turned up, and I worked for 2 days with Simon McBurney, their artistic director, and he offered me a job. And through working with Complicité, I transformed my mindset of being a dancer to that of an actor. Having said that, that wasn't Simon instigating it. It was coming very much from my Bharatanatyam training. Simon unlocked it for me. He made me realise what I could actually use my Bharatanatyam training for, apart from just being a contemporary dancer. After leaving Complicité, 3 years of international touring and being on National Theatre Live, I went on to work with Dragonblood Theatre as a collaborator, working with the writer on poetry and structural poetry using Bharatanatyam Chronicle, and how we could devise a script. I then went on to work with Icon Theatre, which was a devised piece of work, a very naturalistic piece of theatre, again helping with devising the script and devising characters. I then went on to work with Theatre ad Infinitum, which is a minor theatre company, and that has led me to now Sign Dance Collective. So that's sort of my personal journey in terms of working with companies. There's a couple of companies I haven't mentioned here, Royal Opera House, Movie Duck Productions, and several others. But I didn't want to just go through this journey just to show you, oh, look what I've done, and oh, I've been here and there and everywhere. And I didn't jump from job to job for financial security. What I realised is my role in each of these companies wasn't just as a performer, but was in the capacity as a collaborator. And collaboration isn't something we really are given as part of our South Asian dance training. South Asian dance training is predominantly a solo art form, and so we're very much taught to be independent and works in a very authoritarian structure where we have a guru, we have the shishya, the guru teaches the shishya grows, the shishya then teaches the guru goes higher. Same thing with the choreography, the guru will tell you what to do, where to go, how to do it, the same instruct the musicians what to do. So it's kind of very structured and very pyramid shaped. And so coming from that mindset, when you're working in a collaborative nature, it's very hard, your mindset, to understand what collaboration is and how you work like that. Because immediately our thoughts are, as South Asian dance, well, this could be just me, but I did feel this initially, is, oh God, it's taking, or she's taking everything from me, and they're making their own thing and I'm not doing anything. And it's not about that, it's as much giving as it is receiving, because although they may be using some of the material you're developing, they are giving you new thoughts, new ideas, and new ways to start creating your own work and your own, start your own creative journeys, in a sense. And so whilst I was working with these companies, I was starting to trigger ideas of how I might want to work and discover my own voice and my own language. I started to develop and explore my own language and start developing my own work. And I did this by identifying relevant opportunities, and this is through research, just looking online. Was the internet around? Yes, it was. Online, and just trying to find opportunities around. And I must say I've been very lucky to have had the support I've had and able to explore the language that I'm developing and still continue to do. But in that process, and this is several opportunities I had, I noticed a lot of difficulties, predominantly coming from a South Asian dance background, which is what I want to share with you. One is the expectation of these opportunities is immediate results. There's this drive that you need to deliver something at the end of a residency or the end of a exploratory period. You need to have achieved something. And I'm not saying you don't have to achieve anything, but there's this idea that you need to have produced something. And I think sometimes exploration isn't about producing work or producing the beginnings of work. It is merely about the exploration of a form. And what's not understood in trying to identify an independent voice and a language for yourself takes time and resources, and I don't think that's very well understood. Sometimes we feel we can just throw things together and that's who I am, and it's not that simple. We have to deconstruct a tradition and a culture, analyse it, and then reconstruct it to make something of our own and make sense to ourselves. And that doesn't happen over a short period of time. I also realised, working with these establishments, that the way they perceived South Asian dance was very much from one perspective. And the perspective was that of personal and cultural identity. And I'm not saying that personal and cultural identity isn't important. Fundamentally, any piece of artwork is rooted in identity. But my question is it not possible to allow the language itself of South Asian dance to be able to express other areas such as social political issues, health and well-being, feminism, sexuality, philosophy? I mean, it's there in Bharatanatyam, we use the language to tell stories, and it's not rooted in specific identity. And somehow I found it very difficult when you're expressing this new paradigm of thought or looking at it from a different perspective, that establishments found it extremely hard to comprehend this new thought. And fundamentally, I think South Asian dance has a different approach to creating. We don't have a linear approach. It's very much about grabbing different aspects and then weaving them together to create pieces of work. So that leads me to say that the depth of South Asian dance isn't really fully understood by the establishments in the UK. And I feel they want to see the work that portrays cultural identity, and they don't really want to understand the depth that it goes to. And I find it a real struggle to communicate this, and I'm still trying to communicate this. And my personal feeling that is more has to be done to not just establishments, but audiences and artists alike. More has to be done to inform and increase the knowledge of what South Asian dance actually entails. And beyond this, through these opportunities that I had, I felt this constant pressure that, given my age and my creative experience, that I should be delivering something. Oh, you know, you've done this and you've done this, and you know, you're not really my age away, but you're so here, you know, you're this age now, you must be able to do something. It's like, no, I'm trying to explore and find what it is I'm trying to do. It's not easy. And somehow I felt this pressure to do something at a certain point in my life, like I couldn't do it slightly later on in my life. And I don't know if this is whether this is internally created or it's externally created. Internally, I felt that I needed to achieve something, but I knew I wasn't there yet. And externally, I felt this drive that I need to be achieving this at this point. And really, I think that's based on the ideas of success. And so that leads me to the question of what is success. And for me, I don't really think about success when I'm creatively exploring. It's not about success at all. It's about the creative journey, the creative exploration. And I'm not saying recognition for our explorations isn't important. It unlocks avenues in order for us to be able to continue our explorations. What I'm trying to say is that success isn't the driver for the work, but it's important to the survival of the work. And that leads me to sort of the age of celebrityism. I don't know if that's a new word or not. But I think we all feel that fame and recognition is the height of success. And I think that's incredibly detrimental to creativity. It's not about that. I think if we follow this ideal, we're then making work for others. And it should not be about that. We should be making work for ourselves to connect with others. And if you follow that, not only will you find success in your own being, but externally, but you'll also enrich your own artistry and grow as an artist. It's my own personal feeling. So I've summed this up. I've put externally, success is being able to make an impact on audiences, regardless of numbers. However, the work must be housed in appropriate venues and locations. So you can't go to a 1,000-seater, sell 30 tickets and go, well, I had an impact of 30 people, great. It doesn't work like that. If you've got 30 audiences to go to a venue that houses 30 people and have an impact on those 30 people. Internally, success is transient. The goal keeps moving, but it's fundamentally achieving creative satisfaction, and that is the ideal way to enrich our artistry. Of course, that's not the only way to enrich our artistry. Constantly striving for new knowledge and information, enjoying and loving the work you're involved in, and these two are the opposite of that. It's knowing when you're not enjoying a particular project or creative journey and having the courage to pull away from it. And I'm going to just share an example of this. Recently, I was working with quite an established company, and I went through the creative process, developed work, went on a small tour, and for me, it was jarring. The creative journey wasn't creative enough, and the performances, I didn't enjoy them. And they contacted me recently, they're going on tour next year, and they said, do you want to come on tour? And I had to say no. And that's quite hard for me to do because financially it has an impact on me. But creatively, and for my own self-preservation as an artist, I couldn't do it. And so I decided not to do it, and it's not an easy task to do. And what I've discovered from that process is really that our own creative explorations have to be in relation to the collaborators and the artists we're working with. And I would say the same principle applies to the balance within ourselves as artists, in the sense that when we pursue our own creative journey, it's not just reaching out and going, oh, this is what I want to explore, and this is what I want to explore. Equally, we have to dig deeper and then find the cultural world we actually live in. So by going and seeing other people's work, experiencing other modes of expression. They all feed us as artists. It's a shared world, and by embracing that, we can only grow. And that, missing something. Yes. So what I'm trying to say is, I think a lot of the time, and I'm saying this from my own experience really, that and I was like this, and this was the example I was sharing at the beginning when Mira put me out to it, is that South Asians get very comfortable, can cocoon themselves and bubble themselves up into a ball. And I think it's incredibly important that we move away from that and allow ourselves to not change the form so much as allow other works and other culture around us to inform us and help us grow further. And I'm going to move on because it's easy for me to say this probably because I have representation. I'm going to talk about management and producing support, and I do have representation, and it does help in many ways. It helps open doors, new connections, relationships, and general administrative support. And all of that, if you have to do it while you're creating or undertaking your exploration, is very difficult, so it's very helpful. And that model isn't for everyone. I think each artist here is very different, and you have to find the appropriate type of management that works for you. What I would say is, whoever you work with and whatever producer or manager you work with, fundamentally the responsibility will always lie with the artist, and that is that you will always have to be able to speak about your work passionately, and always maintain relationships with venues, good working relationships, and funding bodies. So I would say speaking about your work is of utmost importance. And that's another skill that you have to add to the list, unfortunately, because if you can't talk about your work, you don't know how to express it beyond the work itself. And what I had to do, I'm just going to share what I actually do to do this, is I talk to myself. I sound like a mad person now. I actually put a dictaphone and I talk to myself, and I throw myself questions, and I talk to myself, and I throw myself further questions, and I try to answer it. And doing that really helps me to formulate exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing and how I respond to my own work. It also helps me find where I belong within the arts sector and discover my deepest passions. And most importantly, I'd say honesty helps you to speak about your work accurately. So that leads me to just talk about the current position and future needs of South Asian dance. Oh, that's perfect. Just to sum it up. So the current position, I feel South Asian dance has stagnated, in my personal opinion, and I think it's because of the reasons I mentioned before. I feel there's a lack of genuine exploration and taking time to delve into the form deeply and escalate something meaningful for each of the artists. I think understanding what each individual artist is contributing to the wider arts ecology needs to be understood. And I think modelling ideas of success externally is detrimental. And I think these are the reasons why South Asian dance, I feel, is stagnating. What I feel the future needs in order for it to start moving again is establishments and artists need to recognise the myriad of different approaches artists can take in South Asian dance. That is, we can explore a different number of avenues in South Asian dance. The perception of what we see, or what people who don't understand South Asian dance see, go, well, that looks like that. It's pretty much the same. They're doing all this in it, right? But what it is the underlying theme of it is different, and unless we can start to make that evident, we can't make a change. Artists and establishments need to recognise the time required to develop work and voices of substance. South Asian dance artists need to consider more avenues of collaborating, and I think from differing backgrounds, or with each other. Sometimes you want to stay within the idiom of classical Indian dance, which is fine, but then don't do it on your own. Find other partners to work with. You know, I think collaboration is a beautiful thing. You can only learn, and it's all about learning and sharing. These are all my thoughts, by the way. Don't have to do it. And artists need to be honest with themselves. So wherever you are, just be. So that's my thoughts, and I'm just going to finish by saying what I think we should be proud of and what I think needs to change. I can't speak off the cuff, I have to read this for this bit. I think South Asian dance is very much seen as an integral part of the arts sector now, and I think this is a huge achievement over the last 30 years or so. And I think organisations like Akademi, Sambat, Kadam Pulse have built stepping stones for artists like me and others around us at the moment to continue a career into dance. And without them, I wouldn't be where I am, because those initial stepping stones were so significant to me to be able to find my way into the large world of the arts. And so moving forward, I strongly feel it is time for establishments, funding bodies and the artists to recognise that South Asian dance is not just a subset of contemporary dance, nor is it a means in which to just portray our cultural identity. South Asian dance is a skilled performing art and a language that embraces dance, theatre, mime, gesture, poetry, rhythm, music, visual art, writing, choreography, improvisation, mythology and philosophy with years of training. And so by embracing and understanding this, we can open up an infinite number of possible explorations of any one of these branches to really make the British art scene more vibrant, diverse and integrated. I also feel that more opportunities for collaborative work need to be in place, and finding these opportunities are difficult and often difficult for artists not familiar with collaborative approaches to work. Having a training ground and opportunity to work like this will spark and ignite new thoughts and ideas for South Asian dance artists. And finally, South Asian performing arts are culturally diverse, and the language used does connect to a specific cultural identity. So it's time that South Asian performing artists use this language in ways, be it classical or a hybrid language, to speak about what truly matters to them as an integral part of British society, and not be constantly packaged up as a traditional artifact. South Asian performing arts is a living, breathing and cultural form that has its own evolutionary trajectory. I'll finish there.
Thank you very much. Lots to ponder there, so before I ask some questions, because a lot came to my mind, does anybody have anything they want to pick up on? It doesn't have to be a question, it can just be something that chimes with what you were thinking, or actually you fully disagree, or there's something else you want to ask Shane before he asks you some questions.
That's something to mind for me. So I guess it's less of a question than just an inquiry. So I'm judging the first round of BC Young Dancers tomorrow. I'm looking at 13 DVDs towards the competition. And it'll span all stages of South Asian dance styles. But my question is it going to be just judged on the nritta aspect of Bharatanatyam as ballet, contemporary, and hip-hop will, because those are the other subcategories? And if it's not, that's a real shame. That's something that reflects what you've been talking about. You know, the philosophy, the nritya aspect of Bharatanatyam that doesn't exist. It exists a little bit in ballet, but perhaps not so much in contemporary dance. At least in our own training, it was very much, you know, the body speaks, the face doesn't really. So it's a question that I have now in my head, thanks to this discussion that you brought up, and something that I feel needs to be pushed forward. How to judge South Asian dance on its own terms.
Okay. Do you have anything to say to that, Shane?
Kind of. I mean, really we have to look at the makeup of Bharatanatyam or any South Asian dance form in terms of its aspects. So underlying or underpinning is rhythm, melody that plays a part. But if you actually sort of break it up, you could say that about 65 to 70% of it is narrative storytelling, and about 30 to 35% of it is abstract. So based on that, where do you think the focus should be?
Why do you think those figures?
Because if you look at amalgam, it's initially, I mean, we could look at it, break it down, because we start with an alaripu from Bharatanatyam. Look at the alaripu, which is to mark out the space. Then we have a beginning bandhanam piece, which is kind of nritya, which is to invoke an idea of divinity and spirituality. Then we move into this room, which shows our highlights, rhythm and technical ability. Then we move into Varna, again, most of it narrative-based, nritya-based, and interspersed with abstract dance. Then you look at the second half, and then pretty much all of it is narrative-based, so that's where my figures are coming from, based on the market of Bharatanatyam.
In relation to the selection process that we were talking about, so just so we can all understand, you're looking at a subset of applicants who apply because they do South Asian dance, is that right?
Yeah.
And there's equivalent in ballet.
Yeah.
Pop. Okay, so once you do the shortlisting using your knowledge, will there be a panel of people who will look at their ability to perform and communicate?
Yes, Sita Patel will be, I think, along with Kenrick and other hip-hop artists and ballet aficionados, and then after that they'll be going on to the finals and working and being seen by William Berger, et cetera. And finally culminating in performance at the May 9th, I think, in Sadler's Wells.
So they will get an opportunity to be seen by people who are both informed by the style or just looking at how well they perform, how well they communicate.
And being mentored and choreographed on.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a huge, I'd say that's a huge success by the fact that we're on an equal footing with those other forms.
It is massive for South Asian dance, in fitting with what you've been saying. But it's a bit, now I'm asking questions about how it's being judged.
Yeah.
If it can be judged in the same ways that those other three art forms can be.
You don't think they're having the similar questions when they're watching for themselves?
No, because they don't have the nritya aspect to it. They don't have a pure, I mean, it's horrible to say pantomime, but you can't, there's not a storytelling aspect that involves the entire body. It's not just 1/3 of an aspect of the dance form. I mean, it exists there in ballet and things like that. And it's more and more probably in hip-hop, and definitely in contemporary, but not to the extent, not to the extent of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years that it's been performed in Bharatanatyam and Kathak and other South Asian dance forms.
Yes.
Could you ask me these questions?
Yeah, you can definitely help. I wanted to ask one question from what you were saying actually, which was about that moment you realised that you needed to know how to talk about your work, and actually you were doing a disservice to your work by not knowing how to do that. How did you come to that realisation? Are you better at that? Where do you go to get even better at that?
I had a really bad experience. I won't say who it was with. I thought it was Impermanence, the first piece I made. I went, right, I've got a DVD. I just need to meet someone. I'll give them this DVD, talk to them. That'll be it. And I arranged a meeting. I turned up and I went, this is my new piece, Impermanence. It's like Indian dance with a bit of contemporary stuff in it. And then she looked at me and she went, okay, thank you. And then there was a silence. And then I just told her a little bit more about the themes of it. And she went, well, that's the shortest meeting I've ever had. And I went away and went, oh dear. And from then, I've been like, how do I start to talk about my work? And it's a continuous journey. I tell you what, watching debates and panel discussions is incredibly helpful, because especially when you hear politicians speaking, they're great at it. Just being able to sort of bounce off things. So I use that as a tool.
Okay. So how do you balance making the language accessible with ensuring that the integrity of what you're trying to get across in your work is communicated?
Honesty.
Okay.
Whatever my language is, as long as I'm articulating in honesty, I feel it be felt.
Does everybody else feel like that? That honesty is the way to communicate your work? Yeah.
Not as a politician, obviously.
I have just a question. We've just sort of commissioned 4 pieces, and I would like some of the recipients are here. I would like to just hear sort of in 3 minutes from each of, or 2 minutes from each of them about what they are planning to do and how they speak about it. You know, it's just wonderful to kind of hear Aruna, Uja, Kamla just talk about what they're doing.
Can we give them a couple of minutes to think about that while we take the other question?
Yeah.
And so then we'll
it's not a question actually, it is just a response to what Kamala was saying before. I agree with Shane that it is the way Indian classical dance is been looked at is very different. And my question is that why do we have to look at it in a different way just because it has got a Vinaya in it? Why can't it be looked at as a dance itself? Because even if there is no facial expression within the other dance forms, the body itself speaks a lot about the movement, the subject. And why do we have this differentiation? And also, why do we have this urge to bifurcate Indian classical dance just because it has got an extra facial expression on top? It's just why do we need to divide that?
I have a question for Shane.
Just before did you want to respond to that at all?
Yeah, a little bit. I think I kind of mentioned this, it's thought processes, it's different cultural thought processes. If we look at the old Greek theatre or Indian dance in India, there was no boundaries, it was a performing art. But whenever it was, it came 60s, the Ram world came, it suddenly was a dance form. And what happened, these kind of constructs came crashing down on us, and ever since, it's been built around that. So we've always been felt confined within that. So when we start to explain something else, we find it difficult because these constructs have been there for 60, 70, 80, 90, 2010, over 50 years. So we got to a point now going, actually, hang on a second, we don't come from a place, or the form and the art, the practice doesn't come from a place with these boundaries. So why are we trying to contain ourselves in it? I think I'm saying the same thing you are.
Talking about collaboration, I'm quite apprehensive of watching South Asian collaborations because it tends to always be someone does this, and next thing they do that, and then there's a bit of fusion music. How would you actually go about doing a South Asian collaboration that kind of, because you're talking about the benefits of it, but I can't really see the benefits and like just see that.
That's what I was talking about. It's excavating the form. It's getting to the underlying principles of the form. When we hold something like this is what we perceive. But what is our mind doing? What is the form? What helps us make that shape? And it's questioning it on that level and then sharing that with another practitioner going, this is what I'm thinking when I'm doing, what are you thinking? And it's the ideas behind the form, the principles. If you can start sharing those principles of forms, then we're creating the third place, which is so exciting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's the principles.
So I think linking it to what you said earlier, rather than thinking of the product, start sort of thinking about the process and the journey in itself will sort of take you somewhere. But if you're thinking, I have to create this product, and sometimes we have to do that because we have 2 days and create something. So then the product is more important, and therefore you might compromise on the journey, and that might happen.
I just want to offer some reflections. It was lovely to hear you speak, really lovely. And I think just by hearing you speak, I feel South Asian dance has come leaps and bounds in the UK, for sure. I wouldn't use the word stagnation, because then it kind of takes away everything that has happened. And I'm just going to focus on Britain. You talked about organizations, you talked about individual journeys. I actually get very excited when I think about the amount of practitioners that are here in the UK creating work. We might agree or disagree with their aesthetics, but there is a huge range of new work that's coming out of UK. So that was my first reflection. Second is, it's something that I feel so passionately about. I mean, just looking in this room, that it's lovely to see a lot of people. But I'd like to see, in a way, road shows happening, this and your talk and other people who are creating work within community settings, unless this is heard by young,
Bharatanatyam, Kathak dancers who are learning in those community contexts, they are never going to take this journey. There was one Shane, how many years ago? It was 13 years ago. 13 years ago. 13 years ago, you came into this room, but I know before I was on the CAT program, I knew a lot of young people. Now I know even more young people who are really interested in this journey, and I don't see any of them here in this room. And it's not it's not negating any work that's happening, but I think it's just we need to take, I don't know who this we is, but something has to happen to make this shift. I know there are enough emails that come through. I know Anita is constantly calling young people out. I have had talks with Monique to say, can we take this into those venues? Because I think only when these young people, all these tutors and all these, South Asian leaders who are running these extraordinary dance classes, community classes, unless they hear this and other voices, will they actually think, you know what, this mad Anusha who keeps telling us that there's this fantastic world out there that our young people and we can be part of, it's not going to take. And if we think if there are 60 people out there and every person out of that 60, I know there are more, I've just shifted to Croydon, there are at least 30 Bharatanatyam dance schools out there. But if out of those only one person would take a journey to come here, and that their journey is going to take 30 years into creating a Shane, we're never going to shift this this kind of, I don't know.
The thing with that it's the teachers, because as Shane was saying, it's all hierarchical, it's all...
But that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We can continue to harp about it's hierarchical, it's tutors. I don't agree with that.
It is, though.
There are people. I'm
It is.
sorry, I don't.
No, it doesn't need to be in the
I'll tell you why I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Or rather, let me say 50-50. I agree and I disagree. And the question is, my agreeing or disagreeing is of no importance. What is important is how you make that shift. So for example, if I say, yeah, I agree with you that there's hierarchy, how does that shift that? How do you shift that? The only way, to me, it will shift is if this, what's happening here, can go into the community centers. Is there a way that you can take this talk to a couple of community centers? Is there a way that this artist meeting can happen in Croydon, in Wembley, do you see what I mean? I mean, I'm just...
Do you want to respond?
Well, it's...
Because only then you're going to, sorry, I'm saying,
No.
then you respond, only then we are going to take away the hierarchy, because then the young people, the parents, everybody can just at least hear and then make their informed choices.
No, I think the way that they dance as a career approach should be the same way that other careers are. The information that you receive should be at the same time
Exactly.
as, like, if someone wanted to be anything else in school at those teenage years when you're trying to inform what you might want to do later in your life. I think a lot of teachers don't necessarily, they haven't gone down that route themselves, so they don't know.
Exactly.
And they can't pass on
Absolutely.
correct, well, not even correct, but any information, and the options that are available as well. So, I mean, personally for me, it was later on after I came out of university, I was 21, 22, and then I decided, okay, I'm going to take art seriously. And then I was lucky that Uja has given me a lot of careers guidance and everything, still does, and organisations like Akademi. But if we had that earlier, we could be on an equal footing.
Exactly. That's exactly
No.
That's what I was trying to say.
You need to now, like, get out to teachers and tell them to stop being so, I am cool and I have it all.
But that's my point.
I agree with what you're saying, and I also see your point. And I come from a system where, yeah, I've had a guru and it's been, I've learned in a traditional setting as well. But I actually think that places, organisations like Akademi are doing a fantastic job. And there's an initiative that comes with an individual to find out about this themselves. I get this information, I'm in a traditional dance environment, still to this day, it takes somebody to take the initiative to say, it doesn't matter what I'm doing, I can carry on having my dance training, but I need to, if these emails are coming to me or anybody else, they should be able to make the decision and say, we're going to take a step out and do this as well. And there's a lot that lies with the individual dancer, and I feel there's a lot of laziness amongst dancers themselves who are getting this information. They're getting the same emails that we're all getting. For whatever reason, they're choosing not to come to these events. So I think there's a lot of position with trying to get that out of dancers as well themselves as the individual. Forget who their teacher is, forget the organisation they're part of. They should be taking steps. And it's the same not just with dance, but with any career. You know, after you leave university, you're still left, you have a careers guidance, you're still getting job emails coming to your email, but you have to take that initiative to do an application. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I just see that there's a lot of scope within a person to take a step.
I think it's a combination of everybody. I absolutely agree that young people have to also make the, but unless they are, I mean, absolutely, privately, how does that information get there? Is all I'm saying, that we could argue about the structures, but if the structures are there, all I'm saying is if we know that as information people, all the structures is there, and how do we get there? It has to be a meeting point, that's all I'm saying.
Okay, I'm just going to take one more point, and because we've talked about responsibility and this hierarchy for a while, so if we take this point and then I'm mindful that we were going to get some reflections on the successful candidates, but maybe we can break, get some food, and then we can come back and have those. So if you want to...
I think the point is, it's kind of a bit of all that a lot of teachers are afraid of loss of income and loss of power over their students, and setting them free into a place where they don't have the control. There is that, and to try and combat that, it's not an individual artist who has to do that. It's going to be the organisations like Akademi who need to show the teachers what they will personally benefit from having a student that then goes out and gets out there. But a lot of it does come down to that teacher control those dynamics, which, you know, the other thing is when you're talking about initiative, you're talking about careers guidance at the age of 15, 16. As a South Asian dancer, you're not taken seriously unless you reach about 24 anyway. You can be dancing for about 20 years and be the best dancer at a young age. But it doesn't actually translate, because unless you come into that South Asian hierarchy and hit that certain age, you won't be taken seriously, not only in rooms such as, you know, this is a very welcoming space, but those unwelcoming spaces as well, unless you hit that guru level. So yeah, it kind of is a very big issue which needs combating from a lot of different...
I'm really sorry. There's going to be so much opportunity to carry this on. It's just that I'm going to pause so we can refresh ourselves and then we can come back.